Major shakeup for the Albany Empire.
First and foremost, I'm excited and grateful to be a part of the Albany Empire.
Representative for owner Antonio Brown says the players and coaches were not paid because of a payment processing issue.
Antonio Brown has had quite the trajectory of his career, and the more recent stuff is definitely a little head scratching to say the least. So we have a very interesting update to bring to you guys today. But before we get to the content, whenever we get to 700,000 subscribers, we're going to be giving away $500 to 5 subscribers that turn on our notifications on this channel. We're going to announce it in our community tab, and now that we get all that out of the way, work! Can I be honest for a second? The one thing that changed sports for me forever is Prize Picks. Just having a little extra action on the game has made watching games so much more enjoyable, and I've actually been using this to get into other sports as well. A lot of you have DM'd me the amount of money that you guys are making off of Prize Picks, and I post my picks onto my Instagram story every single day. And right now, if you use my promo code Mikerophone, they'll match your first deposit up to $100. Mic check 1212. What's going on, everybody? This video may sound similar to my previous video when Antonio Brown quite literally pulled up and announced that he was returning to football to play for the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, if you didn't know this, it was a very awkward tweet. It was right after the Baltimore Ravens decided to sign Odell Beckham Jr. in addition to drafting Zay Flowers with the 22nd overall pick in the 2023 NFL draft. And don't get me wrong, Antonio Brown and Lamar Jackson do have a relationship. They worked out in the offseason together. Lamar Jackson actually was on record a couple of times saying that he would like to play with Antonio Brown. The thing is, this was before Antonio Brown had his tantrum and stormed off of the football field when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were playing against the New York Jets, and then started going on a tour to absolutely on Tom Brady, which was the man that gave him a second chance. Wait, no, not a second chance. A third chance? No, it's not a third chance either. A fourth chance, by the way, and got him a Super Bowl ring. Instead of being appreciative of that, Antonio Brown would go on the Full Send podcast and ask, why is Rob Gronkowski getting paid more than him?
If Tom Brady's my boy, why am I playing for an earnest salary?
And nitpicking at things that I guess rubbed him the wrong way. Since then, AB has tried to take his career in a myriad of different directions. I mean, he tried rapping at Rolling Loud last year. He's in business with Kanye West and Donda Sports. In October, he exposed himself to some random lady in Dubai. And for the most part, that's the summary of Antonio Brown's post-NFL career. Now, on one hand, I feel a lot of empathy for AB. Clearly, the way he's behaving is indicative of maybe some shots that he took to the head when he was playing football and maybe some CTE. At least that's what it appears like. But at the same time, the scenarios that Antonio Brown gets himself into get more and more bizarre. And I think the most recent scenario is probably the fact that he is trying to return to football, but not the NFL. You see, Antonio Brown announced that he was going to purchase an Arena Football League team, which fantastic. I mean, personally, I could see why he would do that. His father crushed it in arena football, and it's a nice way to give back to a concept that hooked him up and hooked his father up, because you can definitely say that Antonio Brown would not be where he is today if he probably didn't watch his father dominate in arena football. So in March, he would purchase a stake in the Albany Empire football team for an undisclosed price. And then he doubled it to 95% in April. And it was a really cute story. They brought Antonio Brown to do some interviews. He was talking about giving back to the community. And it wouldn't take very long for controversy to immediately strike. I mean, it quite literally took less than a month for there to be problems since Antonio Brown purchased his arena football team, the Albany Empire. So check this out. In April, we got word that Antonio Brown's tenure as a football team owner is allegedly off to a horrific start. The controversial former NFL star is being accused of running the organization into the ground, making violent threats towards the ex-head coach and locking players out of their hotel rooms. Bro, It hasn't even been a month yet at this point, and Antonio Brown is already being accused of running this football organization into the ground. Now, TMZ spoke to two former members of the National Arena League's Albany Empire, head coach Damon Ware and quarterback Sam Castronova, and they both detailed their hellish experiences before leaving the team. Ware said that Brown's ownership was doomed from the beginning, explaining that it was a hostile takeover when the Super Bowl champ came on board in March and forcing other owners out by throwing money their way. So that explains why Antonio Brown went from only purchasing a minority stake in March all the way to a majority stake in April. Now, what's the problem here? What's going on? Well, Ware said that the main issue was getting everyone paid, and his conversations with AB about the matter would get so bad that the receiver would resort to texting him violent threats. This isn't the first time we heard Antonio Brown getting into issues with money or not paying back someone. He had issues paying back his chef/assistant about a year and a half ago. He recently had an issue with paying child support, and he settled that in court. It's really strange because Antonio Brown portrays this image as a rich human being, but he has a lot of problems paying people the money they're owed, despite making a significant amount of money in his career. I mean, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. Antonio Brown could have doubled his net worth had he had not caused a spectacle on social media. I mean, the Raiders signed him to a 3-year, $50 million contract right after he was traded to them by the Pittsburgh Steelers. In his career, Antonio Brown has only made $80 million. Now, I know that's a significant amount of money, but if he had not made such a spectacle of himself, considering the fact that he could still be playing to this day, I think he could have earned about $100 million more, especially with how inflated wide receiver contracts have gotten recently. But this isn't a finance channel. Let's keep this going. According to the ex-head coach Damon Ware, Antonio Brown, who now owns 95% of the team, was a nightmare to work with, as his ego got in the way of improving the squad and helping players move on to the next level. I hate to say this, but this sounds very consistent with Antonio Brown's personality. It became all about him and not the football team. We built a wonderful organization over 3 years, and he came in and killed it. The Empire are back-to-back champions in the NAL, but are off to a 1-2 start at the time of this article. We're told that team members usually expect their game checks the week after each contest, but once the money hadn't hit their bank accounts for the past 2 contests in April, players contemplated sitting out. Eventually, the athletes agreed to suit up when they were shown what appeared to be a payment confirmation. But following Sunday's game, Castronova said that players were still without their check, and several captains decided to confront team officials on their bus ride back from North Carolina. Once they got to their team hotel, where the captains and several other players discovered that their room keys no longer worked, and hotel staffers told them that it was Antonio Brown's doing. Now, there's also this sheet of paper right in front of you that is clearly typed up on some generic Microsoft Word or Google Doc sheet that was printed out saying players to not be given room keys per Antonio Brown group. Brandon Sassay, Melvin Hollins, the coach Dwayne Hollis, Darius Prince, Andre Revere, Nick Hag, and Sam Castronova. It gets even worse. In fact, they had to fight like hell just to get their belongings out of their rooms, dealing with housekeeping in order to make it happen. Even though the team has followed up with one missed payment so far, where Castronova and several other key players say that they are fed up with the team, and they're already looking forward to restarting their careers elsewhere. It's a happy day for me to be outside of this crazy situation. Goodbye, good riddance. Now, this isn't necessarily the main point of this video. This is just to catch you up with what is going down with Antonio Brown's tenure with the Albany Empire, because it gets even crazier. As a result of this, Antonio Brown clearly doesn't have a lot of players to play for the Albany Empire. So what's the solution? Well, according to Antonio Brown himself, who owns the Albany Empire completely, he said that he's going to play for the Albany Empire. Wow, this is not the return of football that either of us were expecting, believe me. I mean, this would make Antonio Brown the first owner/player since George Halas. Now, here's the crazy part. Antonio Brown also denies that he owns the team, while also claiming that he is a foreign national, which means he declared himself as not a United States citizen at birth, which is even more bizarre. Check this out. I, Brown Antonio Tavares, a foreign national but not a citizen of the United States at birth, am writing to you regarding recent reports that have been circulating in the media regarding my supposed ownership of the Albany Empire team. I want to make it very clear that I am not the owner of this team, and any claims to the contrary are completely false. I think Mike Florio hits the nail on the head here. He's pretty much trying to create a shell company that owns the team that could be responsible for the show he created in the event that he gets sued. And this would allow him to just wash his hands out of any expenses or any issues with the team and move on, which is insane. He pretty much did what the Joker did in The Dark Knight, how he just walks out of the hospital and explodes the hospital. That's pretty much what he did. Now, despite all this, AB is claiming that he will happily play for this team that he doesn't own, that he seems very committed to recently. And the craziest part is that he's also claiming that he's gonna bring in Cam Newton as well. Look, Antonio Brown says he'll suit up and play for the National Arena League team, the Albany Empire. He says he's been in contact with Cam Newton about joining the team in some capacity. I love the images used for this particular tweet because you can just see, like, this is probably how Cam Newton looked at AB when he saw this tweet. He's like, I don't really know about this. Jokes aside, I have a lot of empathy for Antonio Brown from the sense that clearly this man's behavior was impacted by several shots to the head, and I have empathy in that regard. It's just crazy to see the trajectory that his life is taking. I mean, from being in police standoffs a couple months ago to purchasing an arena football team and then driving it all the way to the ground. And the sad thing is, he was never like this prior to the shot that he took to the head from Vontaze Burfict. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then I highly recommend you watch our documentary on the rise and fall of Antonio Brown, which compares him from the way he was behaving before the Vontaze Burfict hit all the way to the way that he's currently behaving. I'll see you guys over there. And aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.